All right, we are back with the next episode of Beyond the Skills podcast, where we talk about everything business, real estate, marriage, divorce, sex, drugs, rock and roll, history, you name it, we talk about it. I'm an advocate of, making sure that you got to be well-rounded. You got to understand history, you got to understand philosophy, you got to understand business, you got to understand real estate to be a well-rounded entrepreneur. And I got a special guest for you guys. This guy is well-rounded. Very well-rounded to the point where I think he's beyond his years. He's like an old soul. He's a very highly intelligent, wise man. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Taylor Cattano. Taylor, how you doing today?
Man, I am better than good, brother. I'm better than good.
Awesome, man. Well, Taylor, maybe we can talk about how we met first, and then we can kind of get into your story.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, I appreciate you having me, man. Anytime I get to spend with Chris is time I value. So, whenever how I found Chris was basically by chance, I'll say. Whenever I was going through my business, I've always wanted to understand more about real estate. And I knew one of the most important things that I had learned is don't stumble through it. Find somebody who's doing it and just replicate what they're doing and take their guidance. I'm in the consulting field, so we do it for others. Why would I not get the same thing? So was going to 10X Growth Con. And I saw your stuff. I saw your ads. First thing that clicked, I was like, look, from Louisiana, love that. We sound the same. We kind of look the same. But then I said, and he's going to be there, and he talks about real estate. I said, this is the guy I need to connect with. So I think it was in the lobby of the Diplomat.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I texted you. I was like, hey, man, look, I'd love to meet you. We linked up. We met you and Patty.
Yep.
And then I think it just clicked from there.
Yeah.
And, from there, I just took everything as gospel. I was like, dude, just show me the way, and I'm ready to knock this thing out.
Yeah, then we hooked up, and then that was it. But we'll get into that later. But I've forgotten that's where we met. I'm trying to remember. That's why I wanted to bring it up. But then let's get into your backstory, because you have a really cool story of learning a trade and a service, and then realizing that's not where you wanted to be, pivoting, extracting the knowledge you had from that industry, and then going and solving the problem that you saw from the industry that you came from, and then scaling this business to where you sit now at, roughly, I think you're going to probably do roughly this year?
Right around 30? Yeah, 30 million.
Around $30 million, which is unbelievable when you hear his story and how you haven't been doing this long.
No.
So who is Taylor Cattano?
Man, Taylor Cattano is a God-fearing, red-blooded American that came from New Rose, Louisiana, small town, if you know it, in Louisiana. And I was born, my mother had a huge heart. She was a nurse by trade. Her whole family was nurses, and they cared for people. They took care of people. And she was just compassionate. And then my other side, completely opposite, my dad was the straight-laced businessman. He had always owned a business, always had run a business in convenience stores or nursing home, whatever it may have been. He was a businessman. So that's the kind of background that I grew up in. Is I had that structure. I understood what it took for a business standpoint, but then also had that compassion side. So, got through high school, was real big into football, wanted to go to the next level, was going to go to Southeastern Louisiana University to play ball. Tore my ACL my senior year. So first real big setback that I had. You have these plans and you think it's going to go for it, but then shit happens. So
senior year of high school or
college? Senior year of high school.
Okay.
Yep. So from there, I decided just to take a regular path to go figure out what I wanted to do with life. I went to LSU for a year, partied and did everything a freshman does at LSU, and found out that I just was not finding purpose. I just didn't feel like that's where I needed to be. I was going through the motions at that point. And, it was somebody that said, why would you never go back and play football? And it was that made me start training again. So trained the whole summer going into my sophomore year, and sent out tapes everywhere, and actually got a call from Coach Dennis Dunn in Louisiana College. And he said, dude, you want to come walk on, come see what this is about? I love what you're doing. I really think it'd be a good fit. So took a chance, went down there, met Bobby Bowden and Jacob Hester. They had a talk that night, and I was like, you know what, man, I don't know if it's God. I don't know what's calling me to do this, but I want to do it. So started there, started 4 out of my 4 years playing college football.
As a walk-on?
Yep, as a walk-on.
Wow.
Yep, sure did. So got on the bus deep snapping. If any deep snappers out there, you don't get no love unless you do the good job, but found my way on the bus. And then after that, just kind of proved myself, got on kickoff return, and then I was the guy, middle linebacker, for the next 4 years. And so
Middle linebacker.
That
ain't no joke position.
No, man, you love
you in the shit.
You in the trenches, it ain't nothing like you and another man against each other head to head and see who's the badass, So love that. I mean, I had a knack for that, and I had a knack for, kind of guiding guys. I'm not the biggest dude there is in college football, but I knew that if you were smarter than the man across from you, you studied them and you understood what was going to happen, and you got your guys to buy into that, and you can do some pretty awesome stuff. So,
oh man, that's a nugget right there.
Yeah.
I hope y'all just picked up on that.
Yeah.
That's the art of war right there.
It's man, it takes everybody on the same mission. A bunch of average dudes on the same mission can get a lot accomplished. So, it was that really catapulted me. I became the defensive captain, and we had a couple of seasons. We went 7-3. So we were the winningest class at that point. Got a couple all-conference, all-district, but I knew at that point that, football was not going to last forever, and I had to figure something out to do. So from there, I decided to get my degree in biology, and I finished out my degree. Not a bad student, but what they don't tell you is if you get a biology degree and you don't plan to go to med school, then you ain't doing nothing with it unless you're teaching. Well, I got out, thought I was going to light the world up, went to take a job, and I hated it. I literally hated it, every minute of it. So I went and did an internship while I was still working that job at a consulting firm. So they did a lot of healthcare policy. They did a lot of just healthcare work in the legal side of things. So writing the legislature, pushing different things. Basically, all I did was push paper. But they said, probably what we would need is someone clinical. Would you ever think about going back to nursing school? And that's where that path took forward. So I went back to LC. I got a nursing degree, and then I went and practiced ICU, ER, med surg. And I loved it because you can affect one life at that bedside, and you can, it's really special. You can say, take care of people. You can get with their families. I mean, you're there when they, get cured, but then you're also there when they pass away. It's a very special industry, which huge respect for nurses. But the one thing that just pushed me to do something bigger was I saw that there was a need for regulatory work. I had this, they always say, well, there's this joint commission coming, these auditors coming, and they made us do all this stuff, but they never told us why.
For my audience, what does that mean exactly, regulatory work?
Yeah, so, in a hospital, just like anything, they've got guidelines you have to follow. And basically what joint commission is that's the company that comes in that's saying, hey, you're doing this right, you're doing this right, you're doing this wrong. And all of that rides on if you can continue to operate as a hospital, as a clinic, or whatever it may be. So all of these things that we were just doing, it all had a purpose, but we never knew what the purpose was. And they never taught you in nursing school what the purpose was. Because I always say this, there's a healthcare side, there's a care side, and there's a business side of healthcare. So, I took an interest into that, and I had a meeting with my department director, and I said, man, what is it going to take for me to move up? And he laughed. He said, dude, you better work here 10 years of your life before you ever think of getting a promotion.
As a nurse. And the one thing that I don't like, Chris, is a glass ceiling. I don't like anybody telling me what I can and can't do. So from that day forward, I said, nah, man, I'm about to change this script. I'm about to flip this script. So what I did is I contacted that firm I was with. I said, hey, what do y'all need? Y'all need any support from a clinical side? Went on board with them, jumped from that ship, took a risk right there, and I helped them get into healthcare from a clinical side. So now, instead of that legislative side, we were helping hospitals, we were helping clinics all get everything that they need to prepare for these audits or to help them correct what they found wrong in these audits. Long story short, with that company, bad leadership. I saw the worst of the worst leadership when it came down to it. And that company, we grew to about $2 million a year. But through bad leadership, it crumbled. And what I had helped build, I saw all leave out the door the same day. So, I knew at that point I had to go do something for myself. That's when I struck out on my own, developed Southern Evals, and it started... What is Southern Evals?
Southern Evals is a healthcare compliance, regulatory compliance, and staffing firm. And that's my main company.
Nursing staffing.
Exactly. And from there, it was literally the hustle. I had to go get clients. Now, I'd worked with some people.
So what does that company do? Do you staff the hospital with nurses that are shorthanded?
Exactly. So one phase of that business is we work on the compliance side. So we help anybody through those audits, recover from those audits, or if they're adding new service lines, we do all the paperwork, the education, anything it takes to get that service line taken care of.
And you had saw the gap and the need and want while you were a nurse, because there was always a shortage maybe?
Exactly. It was always something that we were doing, but nobody knew why we were doing it. And a lot of times big corporate organizations have people, but maybe some of these other folks don't have help. So that's where I found the need. The need was they needed help. They just didn't know who to go to. So that's one side of it. The other side is a staffing agency. So, that was something we developed through the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of our clients said, hey, we don't have the nurses we need to take care of our people. Is there any way you could help us facilitate those folks to get them in place to care for these patients? And then, you just be the middleman for that. And that's what we did.
And what year was this? Obviously you started pre-2020. What year did you start the company?
So the company was 2015.
That you started Southern Eval.
Yep, 2015. And then staffing we brought in around 2020, right when COVID was kind of ramping up.
Wow. So here we sit, we're in the end of 2023. What'd you do in your first year of business in 2015?
First year, I think like 65 grand.
65 grand your first year, and then kind of tell us the progression of how that grew.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because in our industry it's so niche, So when I was starting up, the biggest problem I had is nobody knew who I was. Nobody even knew that the service existed, and what I had to do was, from the folks I'd worked with or from the relationships I've built, is get out of obscurity. I had to put myself out there and make sure people knew that I did what I did, the success I had, and that it's available. So that's what we did. First year, 65. Second year, I think we did right at about 120. From there, I brought another guy in, Matt Sigler. He was a guy that, because there comes a point in time where you only got so many hours in a day. And the easiest way for you to grow a business is you got to add good people. And so he was a guy I went to nursing school with. He was exactly opposite of me. When I'm talking, I'm a go-getter. I pull triggers. He is analyst to the max. Yeah. And little did I know that's exactly what I needed. And he came into the firm. He helped me get things in order.
I want to touch on this because you just said another really golden nugget that a lot of you guys, younger guys, need to pay attention to. You do not hire your best friend from college or high school because y'all just alike and you have share similarities and you like them because y'all have the same personality. And you just said something. Yep. He had the opposite traits.
Completely opposite.
And this is probably why you have such a good business relationship, because he's your yin to your yang. Would you want to touch on that?
Oh, absolutely. Whenever you look at the spectrum from driver to analyst, I mean, we are completely opposites. Where I'm quick to make a decision and I'm very high energy, he's very slow to make a decision and wants to analyze everything before we do that. And what it is I could have got myself into a lot of trouble. I had him there to balance me, to say, hey, hold on, let's look at everything. On the flip side, he wanted to hold back from some things, but I pushed him across the finish line to say, no, we need to do this. So it was the perfect balance.
You young entrepreneurs and real estate investors need to really pay attention to that, because that is something that a lot of people mess up on, is trying to hire people that are like them or people that they just like, but you need that pullback, somebody that can kind of punch holes in your personality and vice versa, because the people that are analysts, because I think I'm just like you, I'm a high D. The people that are analysts, they won't take action like a D, but they will catch things that you won't catch.
Absolutely. We're big believers in the firm that we don't want to be well-rounded. I want to double down on what you're good at. So if I'm a driver, I'm doubling down on what that is. I'm letting that eagle run, baby. But Matt, my guy that I brought in, his conservative is his analytical nature. We're going to have that to balance it out. And we're going to let him get the best that he can at what he's good at. We're big believers in not trying to be well-rounded, but really focusing on what you're good at.
What you're good at. That's so good. Yeah. People try to focus on what you're bad at and try to improve that. Just take a personality and just whatever they're good at, let them do that.
Man, you want me to build a spreadsheet, you're going to be in a bind. But you let him build one, bro. I mean, he's the bells, the whistles, and it does the work for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's good stuff. So You did 65 your first year,
Yes.
100 and something your second year.
Yes.
So that's 2016, 2017, 18. Show us the progression.
Yeah. So throughout those years, we learned a lot. And coming up in the healthcare game is you've got to have a reputation. And, especially coming from some 20-somethings, it was very difficult for us to get senior executives on board with what
You
we're
were
saying.
young at the time. You were how old were you?
Yeah, 20, 25, 26. Young, yeah. 26.
Yeah, wow. And how old are you now?
34.
34. Yeah, so it was 10 years ago, roughly. So yeah, it's not like you were some mature buck.
No.
You're probably talking to 40, 50-year-old administrators in the doctors in hospitals,
We're
right?
talking 50s, 60s. You know what I mean? Like, these guys have been in the game a long time. They've seen a lot of change. And now you got this 20-something come and tell you that I can help you do this, I can help you do that. He just looked. We got a lot of, like, son, come back, when you got a beard, like, come back when actually you got a little bit of knowledge on you.
Right.
But, what we did, a couple of things that I'll just say, because we did get stuck in a rut, I think we did a couple things right. Number one was appearance. I still, to this day, everywhere I go, I'm a be dressed nice.
And I can account for that. This man looks like, top notch everywhere he goes, always looking sharp and professional.
Yep. I think, the one thing that you can do to literally set the precedent whenever you meet somebody is that first appearance. I was walking into that hospital, but when you see a guy in a nice tailored suit and he keeps showing up like that, there's something to that gains you an immediate respect. And we're huge believers in that. Yeah. Everybody that comes into our firm, we have not necessarily a dress code, but there's an expectation for you to show up and look nice. So
that's another nugget for you guys.
Yep, that's a huge thing. Another thing that we did is we kept winning. Man, in business, if you just do what you tell people you're gonna do when they give you a chance, do that and over deliver. That's something that kind of took us over the hump.
I say that a lot on my social media, because I'm a firm believer, like, you ain't got to be that smart to be an entrepreneur, a real estate investor. You just got to show up, do what you say what you do, and deliver.
Absolutely.
And the rest will work itself out. You can figure out how to get tactical after that, but that's people confuse this game and try to overcomplicate, like you got to be some genius or something, or there's some secret. It's really just keeping commitments with other people and yourself and delivering.
Absolutely. Learning to drop the ego and be able to have enough courage to say, when this person is paying you $20,000 a month, to say, hey, you know what? I don't know, but right when I get off this call, I'm gonna find out for you and I'm gonna send you the answer. Yeah. That's okay. At the end of the day, you don't have to know everything. It takes some time to start learning that. And early on, I think our transparency was something that when we didn't know it, we told them that, but we went and got them the solution or the answer for it. So that was something.
So fast forward 2023, you have scaled this business to now from scratch, $65,000 to $30 million in revenue. That's a lot of revenue pretty quick.
Yeah.
What does that look like from a leadership perspective? You all must have been kind of, really surprised at how fast y'all grew too. Were you expecting that much growth?
No, not at all. And I'll kind of go into that. We had a traditional growth from a law firm, consulting firm standpoint, to where we had got to 250,000, we had got to the $500,000, we were working our way up to 800,000. Really, and I love to tell this story, is, some people call it luck. I call it when preparation meets opportunity. We had built this company and brought the right people in place, and we had gotten it to $800,000 to $1 million. It wasn't until we got an opportunity that was just something synergistic to what we did that we weren't only presented with that, but we were prepared to take it. And that's where our revenue absolutely catapulted. And that was in the year, that was 2020.
When it catapulted.
Yep, that was when it catapulted. And I love to tell the story because, it's just all about relationships, man. We had done this healthcare consultant thing for a while, and we had made a lot of friends doing it and a bunch of folks that are in high positions in hospitals. And we got a call one day, and he said, hey, man, look, we are just struggling finding nurses. He's like, I know you don't do that, but you got any friends you think that would want to work? And we were like, yeah, we could call around. So, calling around led to us finding nurses, led to him asking, well, can you get more? How many can you get? Led to us starting this side of the business. We had all the back end. We had the billing, the collections. We had the insurances. We had the setup. And then led to a contract with a large corporate organization that led to $10 million in revenue, And we got to do that another time for our relationship. So, I think, some folks will say it's luck, but I truly believe that no matter what business you're in, those opportunities will come. But it just depends on if you take action on them, and if you're prepared to take action on them, then you can reap the benefits.
Yeah, I love this because, you went from pretty much, what was your salary as a nurse back in?
Maybe 60
grand. And your first year you did 65 in revenue. So you probably took a pay cut because not all that was profit.
No, and worked 80 hours,
worked harder.
Way more. Yeah.
So you step back to go forward, and you went from 65,000 to $30 million in revenue. That's a huge jump. I'm assuming you probably starting to pay a lot more taxes than normal.
Absolutely. Whenever you make more money, you have a different set of problems.
Yeah.
One of the things is the structure of your business. How those things are structured. A long time we had done it just how we knew it. It was, hey, can you help us consulting? Well, 1099. Well, when you get to a certain point, you got to start W-2ing people. And then when you get that, you got insurances you got to worry about. So also is when you have more people that work for you, they have problems. So now not only do you have to worry about your problems, you got to worry about their problems and solving those things. As you grow, the problems change.
It's just a different set of problems.
It is. And one of those problems is not the making money, but the keeping money. And that was one of the huge pushes to try to figure out, man, if I'm going to be cutting $600,000, $800,000 checks a year for taxes, there's got to be something I can do about that.
Yeah, that's a whole nother problem.
It's a huge problem.
It's a good problem to have, but it's definitely a problem. And we'll come back to that, because I want to touch. Don't let me forget to touch on that about having that huge of a problem. How we're going to circle back to that and about real estate investing, because very pertinent. But how did the dynamic change for Taylor? Getting this company up to 20, 25, 30 million. How did your personality have to adapt and change because you got to change who you are. You have to. Well, you probably are a natural. I can see you're a natural leader, but you obviously going to have to modify and strengthen who you already are to handle that kind of leadership.
Absolutely.
Because how many people you have working for you right now?
So we've got about 25 full-time consultants that are in and out all over the country, and then about 200 contract nurses that work for us.
Wow, that's a lot of moving parts.
Lots of people.
Lots of problems, lots of personalities, lots of different situations you're probably having to handle.
Yep. I mean, you're just surprised every day by a situation that I think we talked about.
This podcast would not. I'd get censored on YouTube. We talked about some of the things that we talked about.
Healthcare is a wild game, man. I'm just saying.
It's a wild west. Everything you see on TikTok with the nurses is kind of true. Put it that way. So
shoot. No, I think whenever you have a couple people under your belt, you're trying to do the best you can. But a real leader has to do the tough stuff, man. I mean, you can't be friends with everybody, and you can't bend to every little need. Look, I mean, not that I'm saying you're gonna be an asshole all the time, but there's some tough situations that you got to get in, and you got to realize that those things, although they're awkward, that's where growth exists. So not only is it bringing people that are my senior 40 years and getting them to respect me and have those conversations, but also getting a young buck coming up to see my vision and to ride with that, and then to correct him when he might mess up. I mean, a leader is someone who can cast a vision, get folks to believe in that, and then run full speed ahead,
Y'all heard that. Cast a vision and get those guys to implement it, right?
Yep.
Now, you said something before that's really pertinent to being an entrepreneur and a real estate investor, and that is doing hard stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable to grow. And that's where a lot of people get hung up in this game, is that they want to do this, but they're not willing to suffer mentally. How much have you suffered as an entrepreneur in the past 18 years?
I mean, man,
you've had some sleepless nights?
Absolutely. I mean, whenever you got, $300,000 in payroll and you hadn't got paid, and now you're pulling every dollar you have out of everything that you have just to make sure your people are taken care of, and beating the door down to give. I remember those nights fondly. I remember calling everybody in my phone to try to borrow money to keep this thing going. I remember Chase holding up $250,000 of my money just because it was protocol. All of those things, failed projects, things that we were told that weren't true. All those things happen in business, but you can't let those little things don't dwell on them. You got to be able to, and I'm a big believer for anybody that comes to me is if there's a problem, you better not come into me bitching about it. You better come tell me, and you better already have 3 options for a way that we can fix it. If not, get out. I don't want to talk to you.
That's good.
Yep.
I like that. I'm going to write that down for myself.
Yep. You better have a solution.
Make your employees bring you a solution. That's a good nugget for you guys that are watching.
Absolutely.
Because if you're solving all their problems, you're pre-programmed to always bring you problems. Whereas if you're telling them in pre-program, hey, when you come tell me a problem, tell me your 3 things that you want to do.
Yep.
That is really good.
It's the truth. And I'll just say this, man, I do have an open door policy, but you also coming up as a CEO, or if you're running this company, you got to put some perspective. Like, although you want to be there, that may not be the best use of your time. We always talk about it with the folks in the top of our company, like they need to be that Oprah. Oprah's not sending those those emails. Oprah's not crunching out policies. Like, we have people that can do that. Your best time spent is out there with those clients, out there getting those folks bought in, out there leading, help setting goals for the team. And as a CEO, you can't be just bogged down with a bunch of stuff. Like, you'll never get anything done, and you have to make that separation.
What does a day look like for Taylor Cattano? What does that look like? Man,
I'll go through today. It's the end of the year. I'm a big believer in getting up and hitting it before the sun comes up. I'm up 4 a.m. I get my water in. I do a little bit of reading. I try not to check my emails just because I don't want to even get caught up in the daily stuff. I go to the gym. That's my just foundation. If I get the gym in and I get some sweat in with a community, shout out CrossFit 28 Pineville, love you guys. It just sets the tone. You already won the day. Like, before most people in this world have even won or woke up, you already got a day's worth of work in. That's huge for me.
So you're a big advocate of personal development.
Huge advocate of personal development. I think taking care of this, I always say, before you can take care of anybody else, you got to take care of this. If you're no good, you're no good to people.
Ooh, so, if you know good, you know good to people.
Yep.
Another nugget. Dropping the nuggets today.
But then, big believer in wellness. I've got a couple protocols that I do. One that I'm loving right now is I got a pool in the backyard. I just jump in that thing, 50, 40 degrees, whatever it is, a little cold plunge. Love that. It just clears your mind out. Then have a little time with my girls. Go to work. Usually it's either going to the office where we're right there in Alexandria. Got a couple, especially today we had a ton of meetings. We do a team meeting. I go talk on motivation. I go talk on vision, and we touch on anything that we're working on. We did some annual planning, talking about new service lines, new consultants we're bringing in. And then, some days I'm on a plane flying to seal a deal with a client or go and put out a fire. So,
yeah.
And then most recently I've been able to learn this real estate game, and, that's been something that's got a little bit of my time involved as well. So,
yeah. And I definitely want to talk about that.
Yeah.
You said something earlier, you go in, you talk, you casting a vision, getting those guys motivated. And the reason I brought you here, because you're a natural leader, and that's why, and Taylor's speaking at my event tonight at my house, and he's talking on leadership, and this is why he's here, because I feel like he's a fantastic leader. He's not in the day-to-day operations, right? He's working on the business, right?
Yes.
Not in the business, right? And he's motivating the guys to move the business. He's not trying to move the business himself, because you're not going to scale. You can't do $30 million in revenue with, you and one other guy.
There's no way.
You got to get people to do that for you. And for you, give me a couple examples for these, younger aspiring real estate guys, entrepreneurs that are trying to build organizations. What are some key component things to them being a good leader to help them drive more revenue?
Yeah, I think whenever you're after any goal that you may have, it's very singular focused. You know what I mean? And I think there's a lot I could talk a lot
So
about.
get singular focused.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great.
I think you have to understand that because I'm going to warn you, young entrepreneurs. Once you get into a business, you will be pulled in 100 different directions for I call it chasing rabbits. 100 opportunities that your buddy may give you or this guy may give you, but whatever it is, you need to commit fully to that. I think the second thing is absolutely having a plan. There's no general that goes to war without a plan. There's no coach that has just said, go play ball. It's all practice. It's all rehearsed. It's all a plan to do that. It's the same thing with business, man. You have to have a target, and you have to set those goals to what you want that to look like. We talk about work. You can move a lot and get nothing done. But if your motion is intentional and it's towards a goal, then you can start seeing the fruits of your labor.
That's really good. Get the motion to be intentional work.
Yes, intentional work. And understanding, if there's a goal that you have, set it and then reverse that to figure out how to do it. When it's real estate, if you want to own 10 doors, okay, say 10 doors. Now, what is it going to take for me to get 10 doors?
Yeah.
And then there's your plan. You can figure out how much money you're going to need, how many deals you're going to need to look at as you're going through this, which that's kind of what we've used as I've gotten into real estate is, all right, let me set a goal for this, and then let me see, what am I going to have to do to get there?
Yeah. And I'm assuming, because I know you've spent a lot of money in personal development, just like I have. I've seen you invest, hundreds of thousands of dollars, with programs and business mentoring and coaching. So I know that you deserve to be where you're at today. And I think for you guys that follow me and you know how I'm a big advocate of personal development. I bring people that are like-minded. These guys like Taylor and I and other speakers and people I interview, this doesn't happen by chance, right? These guys are personal development junkies. They're goal-oriented. They have a plan. They're intentional. And they want to live up to their potential. So Taylor, as far as, what you've accomplished so far at such a young age, knowing what you know now before we dive into the real estate side of it, what would you tell your 25-year-old self redoing what you just did based off of where you're at today? Knowing the same stuff, because I'm trying to I want these guys to want to extract the wisdom and value out of you so this audience can hear it.
Yep. I would go all in on yourself. 100% go all in on yourself. I would not waste money on gimmicks or things like that. My thing is any money spent on your development is an investment that pays dividends, no matter what it is go 100%. We talk about burning the boats. Literally, that there's something we say at the office, there's no plan B. Plan A is all we got. And there ain't no going back. So I would just say you have to go all in on yourself. You have to believe that it can be done. Second thing would be, probably whatever you're thinking you can accomplish, you need to think way bigger. One regret, I got a couple regrets in my life, but one of the biggest regrets I have is limiting what I thought I could do.
Oh, that's good.
As a young guy just getting started, you think, oh, well, making $100,000 will be great. Man, you need to be thinking about making 100 million. That's the kind of thought that you need to have. And it doesn't take anything. It takes a mind flip. You've got to believe that it's possible, but you also got to set that.
Yeah.
The worst thing that I tell everybody in my organization is if I say, if we hit a goal, we didn't set it high enough.
Yeah.
And I'm going through a process right now where we're working with staff who's hitting their 3-year goals, 5-year goals, and I'm showing them, you see, you can accomplish way more than you think you can. You just got to think bigger.
Yeah. So piggyback on that. So Taylor was one of my students, and I know he's willing to invest himself because he bought my top program. He got all my time. He got to come spend a day with me. He came and I really put a lot of my time into Taylor to help him, and the dude took massive action. Yep. So you've been in my program, I think, a little over a year. You've already accumulated how many doors? Shoot,
we got 77 properties, 52, 57 doors, something like that. Yeah.
You're an investor and owner in one of the deals that an awesome off-market property. So how influential because I know you had, because I wanted to circle back to the tax problem.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you told me how much revenue, I was like, dude, I see why you're hiring me. And when you told me how much money in taxes you were paying, I was like, that's a problem.
Yep.
That's a huge problem, right? So he went in my top package and just soaked it in, and you took massive action. Like, you don't mess around. What does that look like now that you have this, because real estate thing going, because you're gonna probably get up to 1,000 doors in your lifetime at the rate you're going. You know, how beneficial has that been? Because you said you're a big advocate of investing yourself.
Huge. The
return on what you're doing with real estate versus, you know, investing in a program like mine. Because I want the audience to realize, because I'm the same way as you. I go all in. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in programs. What is the return that you see from you investing in yourself?
Yep. You know, it comes to a realization where whenever you're growing a business and you're really getting momentum, is that, look, we're all on a level playing field. And what I mean by that is everybody cannot buy any more time. And when you figure out that time is the most valuable thing that you can possibly gain, then you start looking for ways to compress time. The thing is I could have went out and I could have tried to figure out how to do this and probably made some mistakes that you made, a bunch of other people made, but I knew that, you know, if I can compress time, and to do that was that package. I knew if I could get a whole bunch of knowledge in a short period of time, then I could take action and get a lot further than I would doing it by myself. And that's why it was an easy investment, you know?
Not just to mention the amount of money and taxes you're going to save now because you got a bunch of depreciation.
Absolutely.
Was that worth the money you gave me?
Man, well, and for these guys that are starting their business, or you may have a tax problem right now, look, it ain't about what you make, it's what you keep. I mean, in America, whenever you start a business, they are not after your success. Yeah. They're after getting that tax money and then doing whatever they're doing with it.
Yeah.
I don't want to get controversial. I'm just saying that's the reality of business. That's the reality. The more you make, the more you're going to pay. Yeah. But it's a game. There's a game to this thing. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that your cousin or your dad told you could do. But when you start making that kind of money and stroking those kind of checks, you start to say, hey, I've never been taught this anywhere. I need to start learning about this.
Yep. And speaking of that, Taylor, you know, because you know my methodology, and you know, you can't just go around buying real estate and think you're a real estate investor.
No.
You know, everybody thinks, you know, every deal's a deal. It's not.
No.
You know, talk about, you know, what you've learned and how you kind of been able to discern and differentiate what it is, because this is super important, guys. For you young guys, you can't just go around buying real estate.
No, we call it the pie of knowledge, and I think I talked about this at the last thing I spoke at. Is, you know, if you can imagine your knowledge as a pie. There's a small slice in there of the things that you know. That's what you're good at. That's what you do on a daily basis and you're confident in. Then right on the side of that piece, there's just a little sliver of the things that you know that you don't know. Well, for my instance, is I just didn't know how to get started in real estate. I knew that, you know, you can make money off of rents and flips and things like that. But, all right, the thing people don't realize is the rest of the freaking pie is what you don't know. I didn't know about caps. I didn't know about off-market. I didn't know about,
direct to seller.
The vernacular and the vocabulary from a healthcare background had nothing to do with the real estate.
Yep.
And that was what was so mind-boggling for me is, you know, if I didn't have access to this resource that I could get and talk to about this, I felt like my clients before they hired us. I don't know where to go. I'm gonna have to go figure it out myself. But that was huge for me, man. Is all that stuff that I didn't know. That's what just getting enveloped in that stuff and working with you and making sure I was like, hey, Chris, look, running these deals by you. You telling me, you know, and look, it gets discouraging. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I would shoot this deal, my man, it's a home run. Chris is like, man, that's crap. I was like, damn. Thought I had something, but it just takes practice, and it's just like anything, just repetition, you get better. You
got to put in the reps.
Yep.
It's not something you're going to do and it's just all of a sudden you're good at it. It's going to take you at least a year, and you're finally getting the hang of it now. You're buying deals on your own.
Yep.
You can underwrite deals. You know it's a deal. You know it's not a deal. And this is so senior. And that's why I wanted, because I'm always shoving down you guys through personal development, work on yourself. You guys watch me on social media. I'm almost every other reel I put out is some kind of personal development, because the business in real estate is pretty freaking. It's not rocket science once you figure it out, but it's who you have to become in order to run that business or be a successful real estate investor. And for Taylor, this guy's invested tons of money in himself. I mean, it shows. He's now he's knocking on a door of 100 doors in less than a year. Yep. He's got a $30 million company. What's next for Taylor Cattano? What's next for you?
No, man, I think, in our mind, we're poised and we're in a good position to be the number one healthcare consulting and staffing firm in the nation. And that's what we're going for. We've got a big goal of trying to touch 1 billion patients through the providers that we help, and we're well on our way to that mission. In real estate, that's something that we've set a goal to have right at 800 doors, in 3 years. We want 800 doors in 3 years. We look at what we did this year, we got a lot of work to do. But we're setting those stretch goals, and, how we want to try to bring those together, the synergy between those two, we're trying to pair the two. So a lot of the service lines that we have, staffing, folks need a place to stay. We're trying to get the real estate to segment in that as well.
So I want to end, kind of end it with this, what is allies to you? What is an ally, and how do you feel about buying your friends?
Man, 100% buy your friends, invest in your friends. And then whenever you invest, go 10x that. I'm going to use a Grant thing. I love Grant. Be something of value for somebody, because they're going to give you that much value back. Allies is in a deer blind, smoking a cigar, drinking, watching deer run. Allies is having those tough conversations when you're mad at a bad deal. Allies is getting the right relationship to where, you needed that one thing and they helped you get there. Allies is a group of guys and gals that, they're there for one mission, and that mission is growth.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
Well, Taylor, man, this has been great. Yeah. Taylor, I want to make sure my audience follows you, because this man's going to probably be worth hundreds of millions of dollars in the next 5-10 years, just at his growth level. Make sure you follow Taylor. Where can they follow you at?
Yeah, we're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. YouTube, we do a podcast as well called The Healthcare Collective. But yeah, just look us up on there. We also have a website for any of you healthcare folks nurses out there, sevals.net. We've got opportunities. We've got all the services we provide. And then also we work with different businesses, kind of the same things that we did, which we just opened our first clinic in Jonesville, Louisiana. We took all the principles we learned, put it in that business, and that business is already thriving. So we, in the new year, we're going to be working with business owners to do exactly that.
Love it, man. So you're going to be coaching other business owners to scale and kind of do what you've done.
Absolutely. All that stuff that you don't know, that's what we want to key you in on, so that you don't have to make those mistakes.
Awesome, man. Well, guys, go follow Taylor, watch his journey, get hooked up with him. You got a company, go and hire him. And I can tell you, he's a class act, professional, and just a gentleman. And I appreciate your allyship. I would say, you guys know I ain't got no friends, but me and Taylor have done business together. So I would take him on the ride and say, yes, he's a friend. There's an old Japanese proverb that says, never be friends with a man until you do business with him. Yep. Because it pulls out the true character. And I can tell you, this guy is a class act and one of the best guys that you can meet and be friends with and become an ally. So we're going to wrap it up with that. Guys, if you want to, come out to a mastermind and meet guys like Taylor, meet guys like me, you got to come out to Allies Mastermind. You got to come out to the local meetups in my house. You got to invest in yourself, invest in relationships like Taylor's done with me. And what'll happen, you'll see the compound effect in your life. And you talked about it with time. Yep. It will extract all the time, because your biggest asset, I did a reel about that yesterday, your biggest asset is time. It is so true. Like we waste so much time trying to figure stuff out on our own and this and that. Guys, invest in yourself. The people that put the most money in their personal development scale the fastest. Yep. It's as simple as that. So share this, like it. If you don't like it, make a comment, give me a sub on YouTube. You can tell me I'm full of shit I'm okay with all that. I just like the comments. So appreciate you guys. We'll see you on the next episode of Beyond the Skills. Peace.